Hello and welcome to May. You don't know what's in here. I ain't going to tell you either. Hello, this is Dylan Lang, and welcome to a brand new episode of Dylan Knows. A frost advisory was just issued. That's wonderful. It is May 2nd, 2026, 11:09 p.m. here in Reisterstown, Maryland. First up, I want to have a shout out to my new subscriber. I wasn't expecting that, but I got a new subscriber. Yes, makes you up to 109 now. So fantastic. Only about 1,000 more. I might start get paid here. So let's get that moving. Chop, chop. Beginning of May has always been a really busy time, not just with me, but for everybody. We have my mom's birthday is April 30th. May 1st is MayDay. Beltane. Free Comic Book Day is the first Saturday in May. Hey, Pepper. The Kentucky Derby is the first Saturday in May. What else was there? The Towson Town Festival up here in Towson in Maryland is the first weekend in May. Our Stoneleigh, we used to have a Stoneleigh fair sort of thing where I went to elementary school. It was always the first weekend in May. Also, it's the kickoff of the summer movie season as well. Hey, Pepper. And they started with a doozy, even though they had a even bigger doozy the week before. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. I saw the doozy of a film at the beginning of May, and I will tell you how much I like it. The Devil Wears Prada 2, for those who are not sure. Don't show your butt. You're going to get censored. So I got a lot to talk about this week, a lot going on. And it's going to be a little bit longer than usual because I have to, something hit me this week that I have declared myself the Forrest Gump of pop culture, which is the name of this episode, 658. It's not a real title, and I'm really honestly more of just a reflective glory, sort of also just what's the word I'm looking for? Just how life is and people, and none of it really has to do with me. Some of it does, but just I will go over all that. It's pretty interesting like that. Some new food items. I didn't write these down, but there's a ton getting ready for the 250th anniversary of America, which no one is really excited to celebrate due to what's going on in Washington, but we're not going to talk about that right now because we're going to try to keep this open. We've also got Ted Lasso. We finally have a date for when he's showing up. And we got our first trailer, our first look at the new season. We also got our first look at the Resident Evil trailer, which is drawing a lot of criticism. And then someone, and I didn't care because I really am not a big horror fan and never really a big Resident Evil fan, so I didn't care. But then someone broke down the trailer, and now I'm like, this might actually be a decent movie. We'll talk about that as well. We have some movie dates changing. The biggest one being Narnia's The Magician's Nephew. We'll talk about that. And Miami Vice 85 also is being moved. A 2.5-hour Gremlins film. Interesting. Shannon Elizabeth's OnlyFans broke records. A kaiju in the Godzilla universe, long thought gone, has reappeared in the Monsterverse America version of Godzilla. We'll talk about that as well. Kentucky Derby, apple pie stuff, Victorian Psychos, Verity, Anne Hathaway. Some comic book world is mourning two people, two creators. God damn it, stop with all these stupid notifications. A Long Halloween may be making an appearance. Corporate Retreat, Enola Holmes gets a date. Toy Story 5 gets a strange rating. New Spider Noir trailer and info about that as well. Felicia Day's The Guild. We got a little talk about that. We haven't had a Guild story in a while. Pretty good about that. And what else is there? Remo Williams, Iron Man, Terminator 2, John Doe, Django meets Zorro, Hal, morgue employees, firecrackers. Finally get our first looks at the upcoming fall, because fall is my favorite. Fortnite, and some other fun stuff as well. So let's get up. This is going to be a long one. I will do my Forrest Gump of pop culture here in a second, but let me just fill you in what's going on this week with me personally, like I always do at the beginning of the show. My daughter, we start off with my daughter, officially has gotten hired at my job for the summer. I've been trying to get her in there for a while, but we finally got her in there. So she's going to be working for me, or not for me, with me this summer, which is good for her. She ends her first year of her college on May 17th. So she's only got about 16, 15 days left before she comes home, about 2 weeks. I missed Free Comic Book Day this week. I did promote it this morning, but it appears to be successful, particularly up here at Cards, Comics, and Collectibles. They seem to have a successful date. And then I always love afterwards, the owner takes his guests that came and signed stuff, their families and his employees, to dinner at the local Kekko's, which is an Italian restaurant. They had a picture of that, which was kind of cool. So that was really cool. I got my new haircut. Yeah, pretty decent, huh? I like it. I'm pretty happy with it. Got my new subscriber, which I wasn't expecting at all. So thank you very much for that. Took my mom on her birthday to go see a older person apartments up here near me. Yeah, she seemed to like it okay, but I got to spend her birthday with her, so that was fine. Some bad news in the world of our Snark Alex. For those who don't know, I'm doing this show as a spinoff of Snark Alex Radio, which has been on the air for years now, but we started way back in like 2012, 2013, something like that. And we were a show. We just talked about The Walking Dead. It was like 2013, 2014, actually. Talked about The Walking Dead and the B movies that Sci-Fi used to play. It's how we all got together, and we just became a group, and then we just started talking more online. We started something called Snark Stock, where we did about 3 of those, where we would meet up in a location, and anyone who could show up did, and we would have, dinner and activities and stuff like that. So I think we had a good time about that. And then we all had these sort of spin-off shows, and then they all sort of dissipated. Mine's still going strong with episode 658, of course. But we still keep in touch, not as much as we used to, but some bad news in the Snark Out family. First up, Julia, one of our really sweet, lovely members of Snark Alex, lost her husband a couple days ago. So our thoughts and prayers to Julia and her family. She seems to be doing okay. Her husband had been declining a lot lately, and I know it's terrible now, but I think it's going to be more of a relief for Julia, because now she knows that her husband is now in a better place, is not going to be incapacitated anymore, and she can start getting back to a normal life again. So hopefully she'll be okay. She still has her son, so it's still a good thing there too. And then Holly, one of our other main Snark Alex, has been in the hospital now for over a week now, I think. I think she's battling leukemia or cancer or something. So our thoughts and prayers go to her, and hope she has a quick recovery as well. Good on that. Golden Temple went from last place to first place to win the Kentucky Derby this today. It's the first woman trainer to win the Kentucky Derby in the Kentucky Derby history. And the first and second place jockeys were brothers, and 18 of the 19 horses in the field were all from Secretariat's lineage, one of the best horses ever to go down the pike. So that's pretty cool about that. Other local news, I don't know the full extent of this, but someone I went to college with posted on their page that Masters Hall up at Albright College, this is where I went for 4 years, and Masters Hall was the hall that had the English and history classroom, stuff like that, is being shut down on Albright's campus. I don't know if it's going to be torn down, rebuilt, or it's going to be repurposed, or what. And I don't know where the history and English groups are going to go. Maybe they're getting a new building, because Albright has been undergoing rapid changes over the last 20-some, 30-some years that I haven't been there. So yeah, it's been 30 years since I graduated college, which is wild. But the fact that they're shutting it down is crazy. So we'll find out more about that eventually. My local Arby's, I am fully an Arby's stan. We'll always love Arby's. We'll always protect Arby's. We'll always defend Arby's. I have a local one that's up the road in Carroll County a little bit, and I go to the grocery store that's right next to that. And they know me pretty regularly because I'm pretty regularly up there. And one of the managers / cooks who does like everything knows me by heart, knows my what I order and stuff like that. And we have conversations all the time. So I saw him I think Friday, and he let me know something interesting, that the owner of that Arby's is shutting it down in a year, next April, and they're going to be replaced by McDonald's. So I was like, oh man, that sucks. He's like, well, what I heard is we're moving to Reisterstown, which right now I can't think of where it would go. There's a couple places it could maybe fit in Reisterstown, but it might be heading more closer to Owings Mills, which is finally getting their first canes. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Still about a year to go on that one, but that could be pretty decent to get it closer to me. That would be great, and probably get a lot more traffic, because where it is now, there's really not a lot of neighborhoods in the area. It's part of a shopping center, and there's not lots of neighborhoods anywhere. It's right off of the main road. Whereas if they find a good spot in Reisterstown, there's neighborhoods all around it. Kids going to high school. There's high schools and all that stuff in this area. So real compacted together. So that could be good. So we'll see what happens. But that's not for another year or so. So he'll as soon as they find out what's going to happen, he's going to let us know. So let's see. I got two big things I want to talk about. Maybe I'll wait till 11:30 to do one and then do the other one. Or do them back to back. Maybe wait till 11:30 to do them back to back. So that way you get about 10-15 minutes of just pop culture stuff. So I think I'll do that then. Ted Lasso season 4 trailer was released this week, set for a debut of August 5th, 2026. So on Apple TV. So that looks good. It looks Ted Lasso, he didn't really show much, but got to see some of the new cast members, some of the stuff that's going to be happening, some of the old cast members. So it looks like that it should be a very good story, and we'll see how that runs out. And speaking of that, Brett Goldstein, who is a member of the Ted Lasso crew and also is one of the writers, is also writing and starring in a rom-com for Netflix due out on June 5th, 2026, called Office Romance, starring Jennifer Lopez and himself. And it's about a lowly copy guy who falls in love with his female CEO boss, and on a trip to Mexico, they fall in love with each other and they have to hide their relationship. But then things start happening and they start questioning the relationship. Typical rom-com stuff. It looks cute. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. Narnia, the Magician's Nephew, has been moved by Netflix to February 12th, 2027, where it will get a full 40-day theater release. So it'll be in movie theaters for up to 40 days, including, I believe, an IMAX. And then it'll drop on Netflix in April. So that should quell all the people who are bitching and moaning about Netflix not doing that kind of stuff. And I honestly think they would have done it even without your bitching and moaning. So don't take credit for that bullshit. But they're doing it, so don't you feel bad now about bad-mouthing Netflix now that the WB is now under the control of our fascist government? Thank you very much, assholes. A live-action Casper, the Friendly Ghost series is going to be showing up in the works on Disney+. It's going to be more along the vein of Wednesday, sort of a darker storyline, which kind of is stupid, but we'll see how that, maybe it'll work out. But we'll see how that goes. Diego Luna, who did so well in Andor, has been cast in the Tangled live action adaptation. So I don't know what role he's playing, maybe the king, but he is in that. Terminator 2 will be returning to movie theaters for its 35th anniversary on May 22nd in restored 4K, because that's what Cameron loves to do. I remember seeing that in the movie theaters and I was blown away when it first came out 35 years ago in July it blew me away. We went to see it at Timonium 3, which had the biggest theater of all of the multiplexes at the time when it came out in 91. It had the biggest theater, and it was shown that I saw Batman there in 89, and I saw Terminator 2 there in 91. And it was, I remember it was packed house. There was lines out the door, and it was a spectacular film. Really, really good one. Haven't checked out in a while. I don't think I'll go re-see it in the movie theaters, but I might rewatch it at home sometime. We'll see. A secret screening of Joe Dante's Gremlins revealed a 2.5-hour original cut, and only a select few. It had been rumored for a while that actually was in existence, but he's finally revealed it to a handful of people in the Hollywood business at a showing that this past week. Lego's just doing everything now. They have a new Sega Genesis set, which is a Lego set that you recreate the Sega Genesis. When I first saw it, I thought it might have been AI, but then a few other groups, including Funko Pop, who does a lot of that stuff, says, yeah, this is a real thing. So that's kind of interesting. Remo Williams, The Adventure Continues. We'll get, or The Adventure Begins, I think. We'll get a 4K release. Never really saw it, but it's always fun to hear about. Ready or Not 2. Ready or Not 2. Here We Come, I guess was the subtitle of it. Is heading to Blu-ray on June 16th. So we get to see that on Blu-ray. Some good food stuff. Frosted strawberry cheesecake Pop-Tarts are coming out soon, and the ultimate garlic parm Doritos. So both of those sound excellent. They sound great for the summertime, and we'll check those out soon. Shannon Elizabeth makes $1.2 million on her first week on OnlyFans, so good for her. Hannah Waddingham of Ted Lasso is set to host the season finale of SNL UK. So that's really good also. Rodan, the kaiju, returns in Monarch Season 2. So he returns to the Monsterverse world. Don't know if that's going to play a part in the upcoming Godzilla Kong movie coming out next year. But Rodan is now back in that universe. So pretty cool. The Resident Evil trailer was actually, when I first saw it, could care less. It's Zach Krager's version of it. Could care less about it. I watched it. It was atmospheric. It was a good horror film. I was like, okay, it'll probably make some money, and it's got the Resident Evil name, and I didn't think much about it. But then people were just bitching and moaning about it online, saying that it doesn't look anything like Resident Evil. They were hoping for a straight-up adaptation of the video game, which they got with Mila Jovovich's versions of the films that have come out over the last few years. They wanted newer versions of them. But Zach Krager said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And a lot of people were bitching and moaning about that. I didn't really care much. I don't care. It was a decent looking horror film. It looks like it's going to be a really good, scary sort of thing. And then I saw a guy doing a reel who said, all you people who are hating on Resident Evil from what you've seen from the trailer, you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. And he went and he broke down the trailer. And after he broke it down, I looked at it and said, you know what? That might actually be kind of cool. And I remember Resident Evil is based on a video game. It's kind of a first-person sort of thing where you're trying to fight off these zombie creatures and stuff like that. I played it once or twice. I don't really know much about it. And there's some really weird-looking creatures that are in the film, and they're zombies. So they're keeping the sort of the creepy monsters in there a little bit. And this is just a trailer. This isn't even the full movie, and it's coming out in September. So what this guy said was, if you watch the trailer, because it follows one person, and the trailer starts off, it's snow, it's the snow on the ground. There's a house with house lights on, which is Krager's trademark now. And this guy walks up to it, and he's scared. And he's knocking on the door saying, "Can I use your phone? Can I use your phone?" And he keeps looking around like he's crazy, and he's able to get into the house. The phone's not working. And there's shots of him looking for stuff in the house, opening drawers, stuff like that. He's got one gun, and then all the craziness starts happening. He starts seeing the monsters. He's walking down a dark corridor and sees a big, giant, sort of fat, like orca fat sort of creature at the end of the hallway. He's running down the snowy streets, and all these zombies are falling from the sky, hitting cars and stuff like that, and just all kinds of just other crazy stuff. And he said, what Zach Krager, this is the guy who made the reel, says, what Zach Krager appears to be doing is making you part of the Resident Evil video game. You're not playing the main characters. You're playing an NPC, or you're playing a character that's entered the Resident Evil video game world, and you have a gun as your only weapon right now, because when you play these video games, you're always given something to start with. This guy has a gun, and he's got to go find other stuff to survive and to figure out a way to survive. So that's him looking through the drawers. He's looking for stuff that he can use to protect himself, like you do in the video games. So he's basically saying what Zach Krager is doing is making it into immersing you into the video game. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. And I thought they tried to do that with a sequence in Doom, the movie that was based on that video game. That's probably the best part of that movie, where you go to the first person perspective as you're shooting all these monsters. And that's what video game fans should be looking forward to. I think Resident Evil is going to make a lot of money. I wish it would have come out in October, but you know what? Whatever, you're coming out in mid-September. That's close enough to autumn that's cool. But it's now got me intrigued now, because then I went back and rewatched the trailer after he said that. I was like, holy shit, he's right. And I find that really amazing. So that's sweet, and good on that. Good on Zach Krager, and good on this guy for pointing that out to us. I got one more story I'm going to talk about, and I'll skip the anniversaries and deaths till I finish up my other stuff. It's 11:30 right now. Actually, maybe I'll just finish this page, then I'll do that. So with the anniversaries and deaths, the Oscars announced that only human performers, not AI, will be eligible for an Oscar. That includes people who the scripts that were written by AI will not be even considered. Actors using AI for stuff will not be considered either. And I think there's something else also. They made a couple other changes. I didn't really read them all. There's something about the international thing, and also if you have multiple movies, you can only get nominated twice if you are in the top 5, something like that, which is something I always thought was how it was. So we'll see. But the fact that they're taking a stand against AI is pretty cool. Anniversaries real quick. Since it's the first weekend in May, it was always a lot of Marvel movies. Thunderbolts came out 1 year ago this week. Fantastic. Still one of the best Marvel movies I've ever seen. Iron Man came out 18 years ago this week. Is the original MCU, the OG MCU game. Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out 12 years ago this week. Again, Free Comic Book Day came out before the MCU. And Amazing Spider-Man 2 took over the first weekend in May slot. So, and Free Comic Book Day was the next day after that. So you have that as well. Idle Hands came out 27 years ago this week, and the Weather Channel was created 44 years ago this week. And a fictional anniversary. I know there's a lot of hate when it comes to Harry Potter with J.K. Rowling, but still reading the books and living the characters. And I always still like bringing this up. May 2nd, today, is the 28th anniversary of the Battle of Hogwarts, which ended the Harry Potter series, where Voldemort was finally defeated, and we lost a number of our people we've been reading about forever. The Battle of Hogwarts was a huge moment in publication history, fictional history. And yes, J.K. Rowling is a despicable person, but the world she created is still entertains, it's still fun, and it's still interesting to talk about. Death's Bo Starr. He was an actor whose most biggest role was the main police officer from Halloween 4 and 5. Jerry Conway, this one hurts, as a comic book writer from the 70s, wrote a lot of Spider-Man, and I read a bunch of, and I loved his work. He was the one that wrote The Death of Gwen Stacy, so he was the one that wrote the Death of Gwen Stacy. He also co-created Firestorm, Jason Todd Robin, and The Punisher. Jason Todd Robin and Firestorm. Jerry Conway created all of them. He was a great writer, was one of my favorite Spider-Man writers, had a big run 70s that I got from my dad in the early 80s. And he wrote, all these and helped create all these other characters. So I think that's really, really cool. All right, this page is done, except for two things, which we're going to cover now. We'll see how long this takes. It shouldn't take too long, maybe about 15, 20 minutes. So we'll see. First up, we're going to talk about the name of this episode is The Forrest Gump of Pop Culture. And I'm calling myself that for a couple of reasons. The biggest one that made me start thinking about that is what happened this week. And again, this isn't entirely like I'm Forrest Gump. It's just I seem to be associated in weird ways with people who are making it big in pop culture and music and stuff like that. And I find it kind of interesting. And I'm going to cover a bunch of the stuff that jumped out of me when I started thinking about this. But the main one that came out is that there was a woman that I think I've been going to school with from elementary through high school. Her name is Amy, as I'm going to say right here. I think I've talked about her before. She was our star, musical star, very good singer, one of the nicest people you ever met. Perfect person, like the perfect high school girl, head cheerleader, very popular, so on and so forth. After high school, she went to college, and after college, she was trying to get a job at Disney, where she ended up not working Disney World, but working the stunt show for the Indiana Jones experience down there. On that, she became a stunt actress on that show, and on that show she met her husband, who played Indiana Jones, and they worked together a bunch of times. They fell in love, got married, had 3 kids who were all fairly successful in their own rights. Lived down in Florida, pretty well off. I think her husband has a good job now, also, besides that's no longer stunt stuff. And then Amy found that she had a knack for stunt stuff, so she did stunt work for The Walking Dead, believe it or not. Only one season, I think season 2. I think Carol, she was one of Carol's stunt actresses. There was a show, I can't think of it right now off the top of my head, but it was set in Florida, which is where they lived, and starred Bruce Campbell, who always wore Hawaiian shirts, and it was like a detective thing. And she was a regular stunt person for that show. Meanwhile, she became sort of a stage mom, also trying to get her daughters involved in theater and movies and stuff like that. Her son went a different way. He is now a pilot, so he went his own way. But she was able to get her daughters into a movie called A Dolphin's Tale 2, where they were one of the main stars of it. So here's some of the reflective glory. I know Amy, and she's done all this stuff, but this isn't what really drew that attention. So that's part of this Forrest Gump of pop culture, because I have a connection with Amy. We were friendly. We knew each other, who we were. We were not like friends or anything like that. Didn't hang out or anything like that. But we were friends. We had theater in common, stuff like that. So, and I follow her on Facebook, Instagram, all that. She sends messages. We talk periodically on Facebook every once in a while. But what's interesting is her house. This doesn't have anything to do with this, but just for context. Well, her and her family were on vacation one year. Her house caught on fire due to a lightning strike and burned down. So that was kind of rough for her. And then they lost a cat on a trip from Puerto Rico, who they brought back from Puerto Rico to Florida, and then he escaped, and that scarred them also. But where all this comes to a head is I had been seeing a bunch of stuff that she was posting about the Lost Boys musical. So the movie The Lost Boys, about vampires, with Kiefer Sutherland, the Corey's in it. Alex Winter from Bill and Ted was in it as well. And they decided, since movies to musicals have been very successful, someone came up with the idea for a musical version of The Lost Boys. So they wrote the script, they did the musical numbers, they set the choreography. It's just been getting worked on. It's finally been ready, and so they started showing it, not quite on Broadway, but it's off Broadway. It'll make its way to Broadway. They do this all the time. When a Broadway show first gets created, they have to run it through other cities to test it out, to see what needs to get fixed, what needs to be cut, what needs to be added, what needs to be changed or whatever. So they get that through things. Baltimore was a part of that when the Wiz, the new Wiz version that's on Broadway now, was undergoing their final bit. They came to the Hippodrome for one last tune-up before they went to Broadway. So they do that. So I was seeing pictures on Amy's Instagram page of her and her husband at the Lost Boys premiere. I was like, okay, she's got connections to be able to get in there and see that. Didn't really think much about it. Then I read one of her, and that was just the pictures, and I didn't really read the captions. So I just saw pictures, like, hey, that's pretty cool. So then I was on Facebook, and I just happened to see that she had posted the same picture, since Instagram and Facebook are connected. And I read the caption then, because it's easier to see on Facebook than it is on Instagram. And she's like, yeah. And she wrote, lucky to be a part of the production team of Lost Boys. Found out she's a co-producer of the Broadway show, The Lost Boys. This woman I knew from elementary through high school is a co-producer of a show that's going to be on fucking Broadway. And it's going to do decent, probably. I think her husband also has a connection, might be an investor or something in it as well. So he has a connection to it as well. But Amy is a co-producer of the musical of The Lost Boys, which is going to be on Broadway, for God's sakes. So I started thinking about this, like, God, I know this person. I've known them, and they're a bigwig now. But then then just a flood of things just started hitting me when I started thinking about it. In her comments about it was a guy named Evan Farmer. I shouldn't say last names. Evan. I knew him. He was a rec league. He was on my dad. He was on the played rec league baseball with me. My dad was his coach when we were younger. He's about a year or 2 years older than I am. And he was also a big musical guy. Also, he and Amy actually worked together on Oklahoma. Was his senior farewell, and I think they also worked together in Anything Goes also, which was the musical we did our freshman year, but Evan's sophomore, junior, whatever it was. But they worked together in Oklahoma, so they knew each other better than I know her, obviously. And then the turn of the century, I don't know if you guys remember this because I can't remember the name of it right now. MTV, of course, had started to shy away from doing music videos and were start doing more show-oriented stuff, not just reality shows, but other shows as well. They did Scream and stuff like that. It was around that time, the late '90s, early 2000s, the advent of the boy bands, the NSYNCs and the Backstreet Boys, stuff like that. So MTV wanted to do sort of a parody reality show of a boy band that was not a real boy band. It was just sort of a fictional take on a boy band. And this guy, Evan Farmer, was the lead in it. Now, this is way back in 2000, and I hadn't thought about that in years till I saw his comment on her Lost Boy story. I was like, holy shit, that's right. I do know him from that. So what else was there also? In college, and I told you the story a million times too. She was a senior. I was a freshman. She had known my sister, was really good friends with my sister for 4 years. Saida was a woman who was a theater major at Albright. And she was a senior. I was a freshman, and we were supposed to work together in Medea, but I screwed up. I didn't get myself ready, so I was kicked out, and my friend Devin took my place. But she got the role of Medea. So after she graduated, she moved to New York City to start acting. That's what she wanted to do. She started off doing some extra work here and there, and then she started doing some off-Broadway stuff, and then some more shows, and she kept doing stuff. And then Law & Order, which films in New York, needed someone to play a lawyer, have a couple lines. She auditioned, got the role. Not a lawyer, a judge. So she came in, she was a judge. She had a couple lines. They figured, okay, she's decent. She knows what she's doing. And Law & Order has this strict, they have to have, this continuity where all their shows are within each other and stuff like that. They know each other and stuff like that. So she started getting more work as a judge dealing with all the other Law & Order stuff, because that's what happens. She's a regular judge in New York City. These cases have to go through someone, and she was picked periodically to do these. So she became almost a recurring character on the Law & Order series of shows. She then started doing some movies. One of the first ones she ever did was, I think, a movie called Reasonable Doubt, which was the second teaming of Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Not as well remembered as Heat, but she had a decent role in that as well. And then she hooked up with a director by the name of Mike Flanagan. And she got a role in The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, which is considered to be Netflix's greatest original limited series of all time. If you remember in the first or second episode, one of the family members is debunking ghost stories, and he goes to the woman's house with the dripping water and stuff like that. And that was Saida. She also then appeared in Life of Chuck, which is one of my favorite movies, in a role with Matthew Lillard and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Also at the beginning, kind of in the movie like that. So she was in that as well. And I think she might have even been in Oculus for that matter. I don't know, but she started doing more with Mike Flanagan stuff. They did a Amazon Prime show about the League of Their Own. Again, all this stuff is, I peripherally know these people. I've interacted with them. I know these people. They kind of know me a little bit. Maybe not great, but they know who I am. They would see me and if they said my name, they would remember me. I guarantee you that. And Saida knew my sister particularly. So they did a TV show for Amazon Prime based on League of Their Own. And Saida was cast in that as well. What's even funnier about that, some more Reflected Glory, some more Forrest Gump pop culture. Someone I work with now at Hanover Uniform, Skylar. She was a great baseball player, not softball. She played baseball with the boys. My boss runs a rec league, and he had her on the boys team and was a really good pitcher. And I think she pitched in some high school games as well as a regular pitcher. She blew out her arm, is now an outfielder. She was just drafted by the U.S. Women's American Baseball League, which starts play this summer. So she'll be playing in the inaugural league. So that was another Reflected Glory. I know Skylar. I work with her. She knows me well. I talk to her every day at work. And she was also cast in the League of Their Own TV show as an extra because, again, it's about women's baseball, not softball, women's baseball in the 1940s. And she knew how to play. She had to try out and all this stuff. And they hired her, and she spent, and I remember years ago when she was still working with us, she had to take the summer off to film those scenes that she was in. I haven't watched that series, but she's in that as well as sort of a recurring extra. Has some scenes that are pretty big, integral to the story as well. And she got to go to the premiere of it because they showed it in New York. The premiere of the first two episodes, something like that. She actually got to go to the premiere, world premiere of it, which is really, really cool. Saida also, again, more Reflective Glory for me, was eventually cast in a one-woman sort of Broadway show. This is back again around the early 2000s. And Entertainment Weekly, which I was still a subscriber to, they used to cover the theater every quarterly, and they talked about her one-woman show. No big deal. Then they did the end of the year stuff, and they named her play the best play of the year. Again, Reflective Glory, all this other stuff also. Another woman I went to college with who's a little closer to my age named Lisa. She also wanted to follow the Saida footsteps, and she's done a bunch of work outside stuff, but her most famous one recently was the Michelle Williams sex comedy drama that just came out that she got nominated for Emmys and stuff like that. Lisa was in that as well. So again, Reflective Glory. I'm seeing these people who I know, who know me, are involved in big pop culture moments. And I'm Forrest Gump. I'm just on the outside looking in, not really involved, but I'm still around, you know. That also leads to, at Albright again, I told the story a million times also, the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game was created at Albright College in the winter of 94, January, February of 94. I think it was January, actually, 94. And the guys who created it, again, I knew them. We had done a theater thing together for a January mini-mester. But what was really interesting was that they literally, the year that they came up with the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing, they literally were living underneath my room. So I was on the second floor. They were on the first floor. We shared, my floor was their roof, was their ceiling. So they were literally under my room. They were on the first floor. I was on the second floor. I liked him. And that was the year that they came up with the Kevin Bacon game. And I like to make the joke that I had the idea originally, but as I was sleeping, it leaked out of my head down into their room, and they got it, and they became famous and all that stuff. I ran into one of the guys, Brian, who ran it, who helped create it. When I was working at Diamond, he had eventually parlayed that into working at a gaming company, and the gaming company was dealing with one of our other people as well. And I just happened to run across an email or something that they asked me questions about, and I responded to it. He's like, "Are you Dylan Lang from Albright?" It's like, yes. So it was a small world, so it was kind of really cool. So that was kind of neat as well. So again, kind of a pop culture thing that I was on the outside looking in, not really. I knew these things and stuff like that. I'm calling it the Forrest Gump of pop culture. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but I have all this stuff that's been happening. My friend Mike reminded me when I was talking about this that Anna Faris, who's in the upcoming Scary Movie, and she'd done a bunch of movies before that, and she was married to Chris Pratt for a long time. Her brother, Bob, went to elementary school with this guy and was better friends with my friend Mark, but still, and that's how I found out. I didn't really connect Bob Faris to Anna Faris until Mark made a comment about it years ago on Facebook. And I was like, wow, really? And Bob and I were in a play together in 4th grade. It was called the Missing Snowman or something like that. And we were detectives who, along with Juan Campbell, were supposed to find him. We had one scene, had no lines. Our job was to come out and be like Keystone Cops running around the audience trying to find the missing snowman. And then that was it. And we were backstage. We got in trouble because we were goofy. This was 4th grade, though. We were goofy, making noise, stuff like that. But we had a lot of fun. Bob Faris is related to Anna Faris, who was in the Scary Movie movies. Again, that sort of connection there. I worked at Diamond Comics, only distributor of comic books in the world at the time, the biggest distributor, I should say. And we had a whole bunch of other pop culture stuff and, gaming and cards and video games, stuff like that. But one of the guys I worked with in customer service, who I actually spent, him and I were roommates. We went to Boston Con. We worked that together. We were roommates in that time, but we had started off knowing each other from our customer service days, and he got elevated to one of the positions upstairs. And then I helped him and was his roommate at the Boston Comic-Con years ago. Chris Myers. I have to use his last name because of who we're going to talk about here next. We were friendly, maybe not the best of friends, but we were friendly. We knew each other. He talked to me all the time. And then, as I said, we were roommates for a long weekend. We did the con and worked together at the con as well. His cousin's daughter is Wednesday and Minecraft actress Emma Myers. So again, reflected. Again, I did not know this until when Wednesday made its debut. Chris posted on his Facebook, "So proud of Emma." And everyone's like, "Wait a second, you're related?" It's like, "Yeah, it's my cousin's kid." So that's pretty cool too. So again, reflected glory there as well. When I worked at the radio station, 101.9 WJ. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So still working at Diamond. One day, everyone got excited because we had a meeting with Mark Hamill. Yes. Luke Skywalker, the Joker himself. He was coming in trying to push his comic book, the movie. So he had a meeting with us. And I told the story before too. He was standing right next to me. He was right here, and I was right there making his pitch. And he was leaning over the chair, getting all exasperated, spitting everywhere. And he was like leaning back, and his shirt lifted up a little bit. And I saw his black underwear. I wasn't looking. I just happened to be right there, and he's right there. His butt was like right there, and I happened to see it. So that was kind of interesting as well. John Waters, when I worked for the radio station, we were giving away pumpkins. And we were at a local grocery store giving away pumpkins. And I was on top of this dump truck handing the pumpkins down to the people, giving them to the people who wanted the free pumpkins when I saw John Waters coming out of the grocery store. So you go, hey, Mr. Waters, would you like a free pumpkin? And he turned, smiled, said, no, I'm okay, thank you, and then walked away. So that was my sort of reflective glory there as well. Also working at the radio station. WLF's sister station on AM was 1300 AM, and it was a lot of talk show stuff. Don and Mike, G. Gordon Liddy, the Grease Man, all that stuff. I knew Don and Mike. We did their Vegas style shows, which are these raucous, sex-driven sort of shows. We worked those. And G. Gordon Liddy, who was a member of the Watergate stuff, we were working the Maryland State Fair, and we were doing live broadcasts of their shows from there. So I was working there when G. Gordon Liddy was doing his live show behind me. So I was inches away from the Watergate mastermind, G. Gordon Liddy. Also, same bit, the radio station, when I was working there, had the rights to air the Ravens games. They were still fairly fresh and new at that time. And the year I started working there was the year they went to the Super Bowl. No connection, really. But it was also the year the new stadium opened as well. But one of the people who did the play-by-play was Tom Maddie, who was a former Colts backup quarterback to Johnny Unitas and also played other roles as well. And he was on the Super Bowl winning Super Bowl V Colts team that won the Super Bowl. And I was doing an event with him, and he asked if I'd like to wear his Super Bowl ring. So I got to wear his Super Bowl ring, which was really, really cool. It's really heavy as shit. Literally, my finger went boop because it was so heavy. So that was really good. Jamal Lewis was one of the best running backs for the Ravens. When he was drafted and a rookie, we did his first ever signing at Towson Town Center. So I got to run into him as well. So that was kind of cool. I had met Johnny Unitas. He came into our parties because we were working the parties outside of the stadium on game day. So they had people coming like that. So Johnny Unitas was there. I met him. Jim Palmer, Brooks Robinson, they were in there. The owner of the Ravens, Art Modell, was in there. I have an Art Modell story I've told you before, too. We were doing an event for the Ravens at a cigar bar, and we had to check and make sure that these people were allowed to be in there because there was a bunch of different Ravens, stuff like that. So I was at the table checking names like that. Someone says, yeah, I'm here for the thing. It's like, yeah, can I? It's like, are you on the list? And he goes, I hope so. I own the team. I look up as Art Modell. So I have that as well. Stan Charles, who was also one of the people who did radio work for the radio station. His nephew is Josh Charles, the actor who was in Dead Poets Society, the lawyer, The Perfect Wife, or something like that, with Juliana Margulies, Sports Night, and some other stuff as well. And Stan once asked me when we were doing Orioles opening day if I wanted to meet his nephew, Josh. He was in the stadium, so I would have had to leave my post. I said, I can't, unfortunately. I would have loved to, but it was great. The year Super Bowl, the Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2000. Bill Belichick, Ray Lewis, and might have been Jamal also, came out with the Lombardi Trophy at a rally when they came back from winning Super Bowl at Owings Mills when they still was up at Owings Mills, and I got to touch the Lombardi Trophy again, sort of, just off to the side, kind of. It's not really pop culture, but it's still kind of famous sort of stuff. What else do I have? Philip Sablick, who was one of the guys that I worked with at Diamond, who trained me. I was friends with him. He's gone on to run major comics companies and also created his own comic company, which is doing pretty well right now. So that's kind of cool. Again, I knew him, not really reflected glory, but I know him just a little bit like that. I'm probably missing a bunch of stuff. Lionel Richie once played a private concert for members of McCormick. So I was married to Dawn at that time, my wife at the time, and we were invited to this dinner where Lionel Richie was going to be our private concert, and that was just for McCormick people. That was kind of cool. I was security when I worked for the radio station, security for David Cassidy. So that was kind of fun as well. So all these little things, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yeah, one of the DJs at the WLAF when they used to have DJs was Marianne Perry, and she was approached by the TMC or one of these cable channels that did a show called A Wedding Story, where they would take a look at different people's weddings and film everything and stuff like that. I was invited to her wedding, and they were filming the episode of A Wedding Story with her. So I was in a few scenes of that as well. I did extra work for the TV show Homicide that filmed in Baltimore. I was in 2 episodes. One, I got to walk past Andre Brower and Kyle Secor over and over again. So that was kind of cool. And 2, I just had his name. Johnson. Guy who played Meldrick Lewis, can't think of his name right now. It was one of the actors on Homicide. He was directing an episode where I was doing the extra, and I got to walk past Neil Patrick Harris a bunch of times before he became really famous again. And got to, and with Max Perlich, I think, was the other guy. He actually was one that talked to us a lot. He was in Maverick and a bunch of other stuff as well. So he talked to us a lot. That was really cool. So it was really cool to do all that as well. So I've had all these sort of connections, but also all these other people that I have connections with as well. It's just really, really interesting. So I think that there's probably a few other things I'm missing in here. But right now, just the fact that I've had all these interactions and reflected glory with people who are doing really, really well in a bunch of different things as well. And in my own little running through things as well, it's just been really interesting. So that's why I call myself the Forrest Gump of pop culture. So it took a half hour to tell you that story, but I did what I wanted. I told you it was going to take a little while. So interesting. Before I get to the next one, change things up a little bit. I just saw a note I left for myself, which I forgot to write down. This has never happened to me before. I got ding-dong ditched this week. I was sitting in my living room, looking on my phone or playing Fortnite or something like that. And it was probably about 6 o'clock, so it was still light out. And I'm just sitting there just doing whatever when I hear the doorbell ring a number of times, and I had the windows up. I think of these kids laughing and run away. So I knew exactly what it was. I knew it was a ding-dong ditch. So I open the door. I don't see the kids, but I go out on the porch. So I know they're around. So I just start staring in the direction I think they're in. There's a car over there. I see them hiding behind it. And one of them pops up and says, "Yeah, hi, what do you want?" I say, "Hi, what do you want?" It's like, "What time? Do you have the time?" Or it's like, "Did you ring my doorbell?" "Yes." "Did you want something?" "What time is it?" So I told him the time. He said, "Okay." And I went in. Before I went in, I said, "Please don't do that again." So I closed the door. I had the windows open, as I said. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm just watching them. And so they come over. They ding-dong ditch my neighbor and run away. And this kid comes running out and says, "Stop ding-dong ditching people." I thought that was funny. So that was something funny that happened to me this week. All right, back to pop culture. There's a lot to go with. So as I said, I told you it's going to be a long one, but I had to do my Forrest Gump of pop culture because I thought it was kind of an interesting thing. We're after midnight now, so it was officially May 3rd, 2026, a Sunday. So last day of my 4-day weekend, but that's all right. Devil Wears Prada 2. Saw that on Friday. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. I like it more than the first movie, to be honest. And it might be blasphemy, but to me, the second movie, Devil Wears Prada 2, is much better than the first movie. But again, it could also be similar to the before sunrise, before sunset thing. The time I saw it, I was a different person. So, well, let's back up. No, I wasn't, because when I saw Devil Wears Prada, it was last year. So I really was a different person. But when it came out, it was 20 years ago, 2006. My daughter had not been born yet, but my wife was pregnant with her when it came out. And I didn't see it back then because I didn't think much of it. And I was too busy getting prepped to be a dad for the first time. So I didn't really think much about it. And so eventually I've been seeing pics of it, heard how good it was. And then I really, really like Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci, and of course Meryl. Of course, you gotta love her. So I eventually watched the movie for the first time last year during my week of July movie binge, and I loved it. I loved the Hearst one. It was great. I found her boyfriend, played by Adrian Grenier, to be annoying as fuck. I found the Simon Baker character to be a sleazy asshole, and I felt that Meryl Streep was a bit too harsh to Anne Hathaway's character, and Emily Blunt was a bit too blunt to her as well. But I know it's the characters, they had to do that, and it was a different time. It was 20 years ago, glamour, life, stuff like that. It's 2006. So in the context of the time frame, it made sense. I see the sequel now. So the sequel takes place 20 years later, and we are now in a different time frame. Magazines no longer really are selling as well as they are. There's a lot more, you can't say certain things, and fashion is not as, intriguing as it is more. So things have started going downhill a little bit for everybody. Entering spoiler territory here. So if you haven't seen it, you can mute me. I'll do like a sign when I'm done, something like this, which means I'm done talking. You can unmute me, but some mild spoilers coming up. So the movie starts with Andy Sachs, played by Anne Hathaway, as we see her, she's living alone in an apartment, and kind of a shabby-ish kind of apartment in New York City. Find out she's working at a newspaper as a journalist, and her and a lot of her staff are up for journalism awards. There's some sort of journalism award party going on. So we see them going to this party, and they're all sitting around the same table waiting to hear their awards. And one of her coworkers just won an award, did a speech, and got back down. So that the final award for the night was ready to come up. And Andy is nominated for this. So while they're waiting to see who the winner is, everyone's phone at the table goes off. The newspaper that they're working with had laid them all off via text, so they no longer had a job. And then Andy Sachs wins the award. So she goes on a tirade against, we just got fired, what's going on, and just goes on a tirade about how awful things are, stuff like that. So it becomes sort of not a big YouTube thing, but it's out there and it's news a little bit. And then we cut to Meryl and Stanley Tucci at an event, and we learn that Stanley Tucci's been on the phone. We learned that there is an incident with Meryl that is getting ready to hit the news, and they are supposed to have about a day's grace before it hits the news, but then they forgot about the online stuff, and the news hits while they're at this show or whatever. So they have to start doing damage control like that. That story is that they did a feature story about a small up-and-coming fashion company, which they did not do the research on. Runway, the magazine, didn't do the research on, is discovered after the article comes out. That was a glowing review of this thing, that this place was a sweatshop. And so that does not have a good look. So a lot of people, when they find out that Miranda, played by Meryl Streep, okayed a story that was praising a fashion place that was working as a sweatshop, which is not something you want to do in the fashion industry. She starts getting ridiculed. She's getting threatened with losing her job from the owner of Runway, Ira something or other. And she was getting ready to get named to a better position, like global editor or something like that, of all of his stuff and not just Runway. And so now there's questions about that. So they have to come up with some damage control. Ira's son gets a text, played by he's played by BJ Novak, gets a text from somebody saying, why don't we go talk to Andy Sachs? And they shows the clip of her railing against losing her job, stuff like that. And they kind of remember her, I guess, from 20 years ago. So Ira calls her and says, do you want to come back to Runway and work as our features director? You've been hired by me, the owner of the company, and not Miranda. So Andy's all, well, she does it, but she thinks he doesn't say that. Andy thinks that Miranda hired her, so she goes in to Runway the next day, accepts the job as the new features editor of Runway, and goes in to say hi to Miranda and thank her for hiring her. But Miranda's like, I don't know who you are. Stanley Tucci, who's in the office, does remember her, and he has to tell her, hey, this is one of the Emilys, who helped you 20 years ago, and it was. And then Meryl, of course, Miranda being just the total bitch that she is, says, I don't want you, but you were hired by Ira and we need to fix whatever situation this is. So she has to fire the really good features editor that they do have in place for Andy to take over. So that, of course, fucks Andy over because she thinks I just lost somebody their job just after I lost my job. And Miranda's still kind of showing a little bit of hatred because she's under a lot of stress, but she's never been one to be kind anyway. So Andy tries to get herself figured out what they're going to do with the features, and they have to figure out how they're going to do damage control on all this. And Nigel, Stanley Tucci's character Nigel, is still the mentor, godfather, guy who has no problem bitching at her about things, but it still tries to help her when he can. Gets her up to speed, and then she writes an article about what they're going to do to we can't believe this happened, and we're do a better job, and a mea culpa sort of, and it's exactly what they needed as a apology, but no one read it because it's online, so it really didn't do what it was supposed to. So, of course, Miranda's like, you didn't really help us any, and now we have to go to Dior, who is one of our advertisers who wants to pull their advertising after this and give them, any concessions. So they go to Dior, discover that Emily Blunt's character, Emily, is now working there, and she's the one that heads up advertising, and so she has a meeting with Nigel and Miranda, and then discovers Andy back and can't believe her eyes, and they're all back together again. And they are able to work it out that they get 6 free pages of advertising and a 5-page story about Dior in their magazine to cover up so they'll stay as part of their advertisers. So Andy keeps cranking out, stuff that her journalism stuff where she's doing in-depth stuff about things and not really anything about fashion. It's not getting read. And Miranda keeps getting more and more upset because she's useless. No one's reading her articles. So the publication is going downhill. So Andy, as she always does, desperately says that she will get an interview with someone that Miranda's been dying to talk to and who's a recluse. So Andy works her magic, is able to set up a interview with a character played by Lucy Liu, who was divorced by a Jeff Bezos type played by Justin Theroux, and now gives this article, she was reclusive, but gives her first interview in forever to Runway, and so it becomes a huge hit, and then Andy all of a sudden is becoming the big hero and stuff like that. And so everything seems to be okay, and then he's back on track, and it looks like that Miranda's going to get the job she wants after all. So they go to a party for Ira's birthday, and we discover that Emily is now dating the Jeff Bezos type character played by Justin Theroux, who was divorced from the woman they just did the article with. And at the birthday party, Ira has a heart attack and dies. So his son, who has nothing to do with fashion, is not a big deal, and it's kind of these like sporty asshole 21st century incel type of guys, is now the heir of this. And so he wants to make changes to Runway, which includes cutting their funding and cutting departments, which Andy just lost her job and is getting ready to potentially lose this other job. And she also can see how it's affecting Miranda, and she wants to do Miranda proud. So she tries to come with an idea. So she convinces Emily to get Jeff Bezos' character to buy Runway from this guy and keep everything normal. And Emily agrees to it. But then we discover that Emily is actually kind of betraying them because she will become the editor. She will send Meryl away, and she will become the head of Runway. And that doesn't quite suit either of them well, Andy or Miranda. So they have to figure out a way how they're going to fix that. And then they have this big Italian deal coming up that they have to sort of deal with as well, where they're dealing with all this other stuff. And that's sort of kind of the gist of it. It's a treatise on how things are changing and how you have to adapt. And I just find it's a lot tighter than the other movie is. It's a quick, brisk 2-hour runtime. The music is great. The score is great. The shooting is great. The characters haven't aged in 20 years. It's great to see them again. And I like them a lot more now than I did in the first movie. That's sort of where the before bit comes in. Before Sunrise, one of my favorite movies. But I still was not the biggest fan of Ethan Hawke's character. And then we get Before Sunset, which is only 10 years later. And Ethan Hawke's character becomes my favorite character because he's undergone a massive change, as has Julie Delpy's character. And it's good to see these changes happen. And that's what happens in The Devil Wears Prada too, is the characters change from who they are. Miranda now has an assistant who she used to be the one who bossed around all the assistants. And she still does a little bit, but the assistant now has a little bit more control over her, where if Miranda says something that's not PC or whatever, she has to be corrected by the assistant. The assistant's a bit more stronger and tougher on Miranda than her other assistants used to be 20 years ago. It's also fun to see where the other characters have come from and where they are and where they're going. It ends perfectly. There should not have to be a Devil Wears Prada 3 because everything sort of turns out for the best for everybody. All the stuff that you've been wanting to get with these characters, they sort of get in the end, which is good. Kenneth Branagh pops up as Miranda's new husband, who's phenomenal. He's a great supportive actor. Patrick Bramall, an Australian guy, has very little to do as Andy's love interest. It was sort of thing that they just kind of threw in there, but they edited a bunch of their story because they had to keep it at about 2 hours. And plus the story wasn't, their relationship wasn't the story. They covered the relationship stuff in the first movie. They just want to focus on the changes that the industry is undergoing during, nowadays with things. So that's why they had to excise probably the love story. I still like the love story. A lot of people say that's the weakest part of the movie, is the love story between Andy and her Australian love interest. I still liked it. I thought it was fine, but again, it's not well fleshed out, but it's good enough. Same with Kenneth Branagh. They're supportive boyfriends, husbands, whatever you want to call them, to the female leads. So I highly recommend it. I think everyone should go see Devil Wears Prada 2. If you haven't seen the first one, see the first one, go see the second one. It is a sequel that is just as good, if not better, than the first movie. I liked it better than the first one. And when it comes out on Blu-ray eventually, it'll probably become one of my comfort films, where if I'm bored one day and I don't want to watch anything new, I'll probably pull it out and say, I'm going to watch this again because I liked it that much. So definitely worthwhile. Next week, we get The Sheep Detectives, which I kind of want to see, and Mortal Kombat 2 comes out. All right. So I've done all my big stuff. So now all I've got left is 4 pages of pop culture stuff. So let's get it on. Speaking of Anne Hathaway, because she's having quite a year. So she's in, 5 or 6 movies this year. Mother Mary just came out. I haven't seen it yet. I've been trying to see it, but it's one of these films that's probably not going to last long in movie theaters. Devil Wears Prada 2 just came out. Just saw that, obviously. Her next film is going to be The Odyssey, which obviously I really, really want to see, so I'll probably see that in July. 4th movie is going to be The End of Maple Street with her and Ewan McGregor. That's going to be a fucking awesome film. I'm going to watch that one as well. And then number 5 is Verity. The Verity trailer finally debuted this week. Anne Hathaway, Dakota Johnson, Josh Hartnett, based on the Colleen Hoover novel, kind of a psychosexual sort of thing. And the trailer has Dakota Johnson and Anne Hathaway making out. So, and some other, it seems like one of these psychological sort of sex thriller type of things. That could be really, really good. That comes out October 2nd. So I'll probably take that off and see that movie. Maybe it's also our anniversary weekend, so I might just do that to do the anniversary stuff. Thomas and Mackenzie is another one who is having quite a time. She's actually co-starred with Anne Hathaway in a film a couple of years ago. But Thomas and Mackenzie, whose big role was in Jojo Rabbit, she's set to play Audrey Hepburn in a film called Dinner with Audrey. And we got our first look at her as Audrey Hepburn, and she looks like Audrey Hepburn. And it also co-stars Ansel Elgort, Miranda Richardson, and Judy Greer. So that'll be an interesting film to see when that comes out. And Thompson Mackenzie's also starring in Victorian Psycho alongside Micah Monroe, Jason Isaacs, Ruth Wilson, Jacob Jube, and Evie Templeton, who was in Wednesday, in Victorian Psycho, which I think is coming out this fall also. Oh, I'm sorry, it's coming to Cannes next month, so it'll probably be out before then. We'll see, maybe the fall. Bulls, an erotic thriller, has cast Louis Pullman and his girlfriend Kaya Gerber, so we'll get a erotic thriller between the couple, which is good. Kane Hodder has been cast in Dexter Resurrection Season 2. Kane Hodder is the original Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees. Ask Jeeves has shut down for good. There used to be a website you could just sort of be a search engine sort of thing that would help you out, but it just went by the wayside and is finally gone kaput. Good news, Sam Neill, who I read his memoir, and he talked about this a lot, announces that he is now cancer-free. He had a blood cancer that was stage 3. He was able to fight it and is no longer has cancer. Is cancer-free. He's like, I want to make some movies now. So be sure to see some Sam Neill coming up here soon. We got our first look at Tangles, an animated film, which is not quite like any other animated film you expect. Stars the voices of Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Bryan Cranston, and Seth Rogen. The story is about an artist who returns home after her Alzheimer's begins to erase her mother's vibrant personality. So it's going to be one of these emotional animated films, not quite a funny animal sort of one. It's going to be a more serious animated film. So good on that. All kinds of really good memoirs coming out this year, and they're always as good ones, particularly now that a lot of our favorite actors are getting older and they're starting to write memoirs. This week, another actor has joined the memoir writers. Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown, and Reverend Jim, and Dr. Who's he in Clue? He's a doctor, right? Professor Plum. Christopher Lloyd has written a memoir called In My Own Time, and it's due to come out soon. No date yet, but he just showed a picture of the finished manuscript, so it's done. He's go to his publishing company. They need to make copies of it, frame and all that stuff. Might come out in time for this fall. Might come out next year. Well, who knows? The original Blair Witch stars Joshua Leonard and Michael Williams Jr. are set to join the reboot of the Blair Witch Project as executive producers to help guide the new the new film into the new reboot, to get people to say it's okay for rebooting Blair Witch Project. The female actress was not invited, but oh well. Maybe she was, and she turned it down. I don't know. Shaggy has joined the cast of Honeymoon with Harry, so we get to see the musician Shaggy is going to be in that. Fortnite and Bendy, the Ink Machine monster, are set to have a collab, supposedly rumored, which would be great for my son, who Bendy was his favorite thing for a while. It'd be great to see that. The British video game Adam Fall is coming to TV with the producers of Fleabag, which was a hugely popular show. Under Paris 2, a shark sequel, is coming in 2027 on Netflix. It's currently filming right now. Lanterns delivers on August 16th on HBO Max. The Blood of Dawn Walker is a vampire RPG video game where you play a human by day, vampire at night. It's due to come out September 3rd, 2026. Firecracker Pop Oreos are set to come out this summer. That's cherry, lemon, and raspberry flavored cream. That'll be between a vanilla Oreo wafer, so we'll see how that tastes. Hot Pockets apple pie. When I saw that again, I thought it was AI, but no, it's a real thing too. Hot Pockets is going to be doing apple pie, which I think is really cool for probably the 250th anniversary of the United States, probably. Dust Devil with No Dust was filmed for the first time ever on a football field. Barbecue rib flavored Pringles said to come out this summer as well. Cinnamon Toast Crunch root beer float flavor is also out now, apparently. And it's never too early to start talking fall. Flips and Dunkin' are teaming up for pumpkin spice donut covered pretzels coming this fall. So that could be first shots fired in the pumpkin spice era. In celebration of Randy Johnson's number 51 Mariners jersey, that's the Seattle Mariners baseball team, is retiring his jersey this weekend. In honor of it, they are selling this weekend only a 51-inch long hot dog for $37. First of all, how do they make it? And second, how the hell are you going to eat a 51-inch hot dog? Crazy, man. It looks good, though. I have many celebrity crushes that I like. Anne Hathaway's one of them, Sarah Michelle Gellar. And another one is Felicia Day. Her web show, The Guild, was one of the first web shows to really kick off the internet era back in the 2009, 2010 age. And it's a great, it was on YouTube. And it was just a series about a bunch of video gamers playing a role-playing game like World of Warcraft. And all of a sudden, they had just been faces on the computer screen and playing their game. They never really interacted with each other. But now all of a sudden, one of the members of the group crosses the line to actually meet Felicia Day's character up close and personal, and that leads to everyone getting together and meeting up, and that's what The Guild is about. And so they've just gone and turned it to like this really great YouTube show. It was phenomenal. It helped put Felicia Day on the map, along with her work with Joss Whedon and Buffy and a bunch of other stuff as well. One of my favorite shows, mini shows, was great. I still need to dig through the final season. It seemed a little bit much for me because they finally were popular, so they started having bigger budgets and having longer episodes. They were more fun when they were about 5 minutes long, and I used to watch them all the time when I started working at Hanover. But The Guild, that's right, 20 years ago is their celebration, so that would be 2016. No, it's before that, because this is back when we were 2006 is when it first came out. So yeah, I really first got involved with it in like the 2007 actually. So that makes sense. 2007, 2008 era was when I first seen that, when the internet was still fairly new. YouTube was still fairly new. So this show was one of my favorites that I watched at work all the time. And I loved it. And then it just sort of went away after, about 5 or 6 seasons. And now Felicia Day has announced that she has written a movie and gotten the whole band back together. Problem is they need help with the funding because no one is funding it. So they're going to do a Kickstarter to try to raise money to make this movie of The Guild. And once they release the Kickstarter, I might actually do my first ever Kickstarter stuff because I really want to see a movie version of it. And I want to just, see what she's got cooking for her 20-year anniversary. So fantastic to that. Anniversaries. The first day of shooting on Jaws came out May 2nd, 1974. So 52 years ago this week. X-Men Origins Wolverine debuted 17 years ago this week. Again, a free comic book day thing. The Age of Ultron, Avengers 2, Age of Ultron debuted 11 years ago this week, on this weekend. Deaths, Tony Wilson, a member of Hot Chocolate who sang You Sexy Thing, which I need to put on my playlist. He passed away this week. Conrad Seth Randy Cardinal, a former Major League Baseball player for the Houston Colt 45s, a team back in 1963. They became the Astros once the Astrodome was built, because Colt 45 just doesn't sound right. Alex Xander, a two-time kart champion and Paralympics gold medalist, died at the age of 59 this week. That's our first page. Done with this guy. Next page. Morgue employee cremated by mistake while taking a nap. It's sad, but it's also funny at the same time. Weird. Indie drama How adds Matthew Good, Kate Walsh, Garrett Dillahunt, Robert Patrick, and Justin Bartha. AMC Plus is set to stream Yaga from Canada, starring Hudson Williams, who was in the Heated Rivalry gay hockey show, which became hugely popular. Best Medicine with Josh Charles. As I said, I have the reflected glory of knowing Josh Charles a little bit. Well, not knowing him, I know his uncle. Gets a second season, which is his remake of a British doctor film, but is also getting a lot of comparisons to Northern Exposure, so I might need to check it out. Small town big town doctor goes back to his small town and all the crazy people who live there. Bryce Dallas Howard joins the cast of Anything But Ghosts with Aaron Paul. Lovesick. Netflix has picked up this Claire Danes romantic drama new show. Could be interesting. So that's been good. We're going to get to a bunch of Netflix stuff now. The Whisper Man, Robert De Niro, Adam Scott, and Michelle Monaghan. It's a Netflix film set to debut August 28th, 2026, about a serial killer for Netflix coming up. Ransom Canyon Season 2 hits Netflix on July 23rd. The next Netflix Harlan Coben series is The Woods with Tom Bateman and Michelle Keegan. Is there any other? I Am Frankelden, the first ever Mexican stop motion animated film, is set to hit Netflix on June 16th. See if there's any other Netflix ones. Any other ones? Yep. Netflix to release The Lost House on August 7th. Film starring Greta Lee and Wagner Moura about a family stuck in a house by an unseen force. Stranger Things Tales from 85, the animated Stranger Things spinoff, did well enough that it got renewed for a second season, which will be coming out this fall, which means they probably already had it in the vault. Hoping it will get renewed for a second season, which it did. That's it for all the Netflix stuff that I can think of right now. HBO Max has a cop show called American Blue. Casts Ren Schmidt and Ellen Jameson. Vanessa Kirby and Louis Pullman are set to star in The Spacesuit. Michael Beach to play Stephen Fry's best friend in The Interrogator for, I think, NBC, maybe HBO Max at that point as well. High Potential picked up for season 3. A new showrunner, though, is coming in, so we'll see if it continues the popularity of that show. But Poland is using I'm sorry, no, that's a different story. That's a different story. Never mind. Moving on. Pitfall trailer. Pitfall trailer. Excuse me. They say it's Friday the 13th meets 127 hours. A gory horror film set debut May 29th. The premise is about a group of people out on a hike. One of the members of the group falls into a pit, which has a bunch of wooden stakes in it. So he ends up getting impaled, but he's still living. And not only does he have no one can hear him screaming, and nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows where he is. His friends don't know where he is. He's suffering, bleeding to death, whatever, and he's not thinking. But then all of a sudden, he has a little bit of clarity. He realizes, why is there a hole with all these sticks that are hurting people? Obviously, someone put this here, and I'm going to be the next victim. So that's what the movie's about. On Amazon Plus, it's got a great show, which I'm dying to see. Spider Noir, the Nicolas Cage Spider-Man Spider-Verse show, live action Spider-Verse show, will be dropping every episode at once, all 8 episodes at one time, so you can watch them, binge all of them. They're all between 40 and 47 minutes long. That's going to be the end of May, so I'm looking forward to that. The Batman 2 with Robert Pattinson is rumored to be adapting The Long Halloween, which could be interesting. Some foreign news. Poland is using thermal drones to find and save lost cats and dogs, as well as cats and dogs that have been abandoned outside their house in the cold, to make sure they get to safety. Only in Germany, McDonald's is releasing the Grimace meal. The Grimace shake is back in Germany only, but you also get a purple barbecue burger, a purple berries and cream sauce, purple McPops, and purple cream cheese pie. Sounds absolutely disgusting, to be honest. The Sperm Racing World Cup, yes, a real thing, will be taking place in San Francisco. And the winner of that gets $100,000. Don't know how they're going to judge that. They're even going to do it, but the Sperm Racing World Cup, which should have been the name of the episode, but I like the Forrest Gump pop culture. Anniversaries. I missed one on the other page here. Yeah, one of the anniversaries missed on the other page. The first appearance of Loch Ness Monster was on May 2nd, 1933, 93 years ago this week. Mean Girls debuted 22 years ago this week. Bugs Bunny's first appearance was 88 years ago this week. Something Wicked This Way Comes, the adaptation of the, I forget who wrote it, novel, Ray Bradbury novel, 43 years ago this week. RoboCop came out 39 years ago this week, the original OG one. Deaths this week. Told you about Jerry Conway. We also lost Len Straczewski, another comic book writer who was a co-creator of Prime and Prototype and Jesse Quick, and wrote a bunch of JSA stuff and other things as well. Roger Sweet, He-Man creator, died at the age of 91 this week. Josh Morrow, a former NFL player, died at the age of 35. Cletus Mack, a Digital Underground rap star, passed away this week as well. Steve Maslow, the sound mixer for Empire Strikes Back and obviously other movies, died at the age of 81. And David Allan Coe, the outlaw country singer who sang "Take This Job and Shove It," passed away this week as well at the age of 86. And Benoit Rousseau, King of the Hill, Simpsons voice actor, died at the age of 66. Benoit Rousseau is a hell of a cool name. All right, page and a half left, and I'm about an hour and a half into the stream, so a little bit longer than usual, but hey, it's worth it. Corporate Retreat trailer coming out the end of May. It's a horror film about a sadistic manager who decides to downsize his employees by taking them on a corporate retreat, then having them all hunt each other for sport. Fun times. Full Metal Alchemist is set to start showing on Amazon on May 8th, 2026. Laura Dern is replacing Helena Bonham Carter in The White Lotus after she left. Mega Mewtwo is set to premiere at Pokemon Go Fest this year, which is July 11th and 12th. Sam Rockwell is set to join Marissa Tomei and Chris Messina in Hellhound, a New York City-based zombie thriller. Chris Pine and Emma Stone are set to star in the rom-com The Catch in 2027. Good to see Emma Stone doing something different than weird Yorgos Lanthimos movies. Chris Pine is always a pleasure to see him. Just need to get him and Anne Hathaway back in Princess Diaries 3, which Anne Hathaway says Princess Diaries 3 script is currently being written and should start sometime next year probably. Dessert Skittles is not available over here yet, but might be soon. It's a brand new Skittles set that includes flavors choco orange cake, cherry cheesecake, I think. Strawberry ice cream, blueberry tart, and lemon pie. House of Dragons season 3 trailer dropped, and also we have a release date of June 21st, which is the day after my birthday. It's also Father's Day this year. Next year, my birthday is on Father's Day. John Doe, David Ayer, scripted and potentially could direct this Jason Statham film about an amnesiac themed action film. Welcome to Derry season 2 has started the script writing process. Enola Holmes 3 with Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill is set to debut on July 1st on Netflix. High Potential gets a Polish remake called Genialna M. So High Potential is all over the place here. First look at Stuart Fails to Save the Universe, the spinoff of The Big Bang Theory. A few years ago, Quentin Tarantino wrote a comic book called Django Meets Zorro, including the character Django that he filmed in his movie Django Unchained. But he penned a comic book, Django Meets Zorro. They decided they want to make that into a movie now, and they got Brian Helgeland to write the script and could potentially direct it. Quentin's not going to direct it and is not writing the screenplay, but Brian Helgeland is using the storyline. So we could get Jamie Foxx returning as Django, or we can get somebody else, who knows, and then a new Zorro. So we'll find that out soon. It's being written now, so it'll probably be a little while before we do that. Toy Story 5 is set to be the first Pixar movie to be rated PG. I don't know why, but okay. Talked about Spider Noir dropping all 8 of their episodes. We also got a new trailer for it, which is just as awesome. New live action and animated Winnie the Pooh holiday special is set to come out December 2027, so still about 2 years away, but still maybe not a year away, a year and a half away. July 23rd, Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4 debuts. We get our first look at the Idiots movie for the Idiots trailer. So this week, Devil Wears Prada. I don't think I talked about that. Let me see if I have that written down here. Yeah, Devil Wears Prada 2, which I already talked about, made $10 million in the preview. $32.5 million on Friday, which is more than what they made when Devil Wears Prada, the original one, came out for the whole weekend. When Devil Wears Prada came out, they did a $27 million weekend. They made $32.5 million on one day, along with the $10 million in previews. It is looking like right now, with projections and stuff like that, the Devil Wears Prada 2 is going to make $115 million worldwide. So if you're going to come down here, you're going to get kissed. Don't touch my computer, though. I bring this up because this is technically now the beginning of the summer movie season. Devil Wears Prada 2 is the first film in the summer movies. Get up there. Go somewhere. Kitty, silly boy. But last week, and I predicted this also, the Michael biopic by Antoine Fuqua came out. It opened to a worldwide opening of $217 million, making it the highest grossing biopic of all time right now. It's continuing to make some decent money in its second week here. So I think it's past $300 million this week. So it continues to do. Had a record Tuesday gross as well. So going that sequel is definitely going to be probably in the works, because apparently the first one ends right before the Bad story, before Bad comes out, and then the second one makes sense. You hit Bad, and then you hit your tail, your shadow. You're chasing your tail, your shadow. You got your tail. You're like a dog, and all of his medical or not all his criminal stuff that came up after that. Okay. My daughter has seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I plan to see it sometime. I have to figure out when I'm going to see all these movies, because now with my daughter working with me at Hanover, I won't be really able to take any days off during the summer because she's going to want to work. The one day I might be able to take off is June 12th, because she'll be going to the ocean with her boyfriend. And I'm going to see Disclosure Day on that day, but we'll see. I'm not expecting to do that. All right, so anniversaries. The Seven Samurai debuted 72 years ago this week. Challengers debuted 2 years ago this week. Friday debuted 31 years ago this week. Dinosaurs, the TV show, premiered 35 years ago this week. Endgame, Avengers Endgame, debuted 7 years ago this week. Avengers Infinity War debuted 8 years ago this week. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the second Godzilla movie, came out 70 years ago in 1956. Deaths, we had Bill Stevens Swearin, an NFL player. Marie Claire Costello, the Walton star, dead at the age of 90. Dylan Carter, a Voice alum, died at the age of 24. This one hurts also, and I'm going to put some Ronettes on my thing as well. Nedra Tali Ross, the last surviving Ronette, has died at the age of 80. Ralph Gunderman, a Star Wars voice actor for the video game, passed away this week as well. And Monty Coleman, star Redskins player, passed away this week. Tommy Nunez Sr., the first Hispanic referee for football, died at the age of 87 this week as well. Our last bit before we end the episode. This will be the last story. Miami Vice 85 with Michael B. Jordan and Austin Butler has moved from August 6, 2027 to May 19th, 2028. The Mortuary Assistant video game is now going to be getting a horror film adaptation. Get that tail. Ray Fiennes, Colin Farrell, and Wagner Moore are set to star in the comedy film Art. It's good to see them all doing comedy. I didn't mention this. I did my summer movie preview last week, and I missed this one entirely because it wasn't on the schedule that I was looking at. Speed Demon, which was a trailer I saw last week that's coming out May 31st. It's not quite, it's like a direct-to-DVD sort of, or direct-to-digital sort of movie. But I need to drop this story. This is such a great idea for a story. Speed Demon stars William H. Macy and Katie Cassidy. And the premise is Katie Cassidy is a nun who has lost her faith. William H. Macy is her mentor priest who brought her in and is trying to get her to get back into the faith. They are taking a speed train to some sort of event or whatever. He's going to try to talk her into becoming a nun again and regaining her faith. When they discover that someone on board their train is possessed by the devil, and they have to do an exorcism on the speeding train before he kills everybody. It's a great idea for great premise for a movie. And shame it's going direct to digital or whatever, but still a great idea. SAG-AFTRA announced just before I went on air that they and AMPTP have reached an agreement on a new contract. So I don't think we're going to be having a strike like we thought we were going to. The Directors Guild did their stuff last week, so this is all good. Before we get to the last story of the week, anniversary, Citizen Kane debuted 85 years ago this week. And Rooney Michelle's high school reunion debuted 29 years ago this week. Booker Reese, an NFL player, passed away this week as well. So our final story this week, a number of earthquakes have hit around the area of Area 51. Obviously, it's just because it's an active area, but people are now jumping on it and say, are the aliens trying to escape? Is there some sort of major test that's happening out there? Is that why the earthquakes are happening? Or why they're measuring those earthquakes? Is something else that we don't know going on, like a war or something in there? Don't know, but I always thought that was kind of an interesting story. So that is it for this week. So next week, we have May the 4th be with you on Monday. We have Cinco de Mayo on Tuesday. And then we have Mother's Day next Sunday. So we've got a lot of stuff out there. I got to start buying stuff for my wife for Mother's Day. What are you doing? You're like performing. Keep chasing your tail. You're silly. So we got that going on. So my show will be usual time next week. Probably won't be as in depth as this one was, but hey, we're moving right along. It's good, and I'm happy. So here we go. We are now in May. It's gonna be May, or it's already May. Should be May 3rd already. So we're moving right along here. So I will see you all later. Just wait for the perfect time and cut.